Good afternoon, guys. It's Working, bringing you a quick update on Bitcoin and EOS. Hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon. We're looking at Bitcoin to the US dollar one-day chart on Coinbase. And as I said yesterday, guys, this area, the 5,500 on Coinbase, needed to hold. I told you if 5,500 did break down, actually the lower end of that area is about 5,450. So really, if 5,450 broke down, I said that there was a very good probability that price could very quickly drop down into this zone here. Let me kind of zoom in so you guys, or zoom out so you guys can see a little bit better. This zone down in here, guys, there's really not a lot of support between the bottom of this zone, as I said, guys, which sits at about 5,450, and the top of this zone, which sits at about 4,600. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't turn around somewhere in here. That's certainly a possibility, guys, but probability-wise, especially if we take out the bottom of this wick, really the last stand is going to be right down here, the bottom of this wick, which sits at about 5,100, and the top of this wick here, which sits at about 5,000, somewhere between 51 and 5,000. Really, that's going to be the last stand. If that does break down, guys, we're more than likely going to come down to at least 4,600. 4,600 would be the top of this order block right here. We had a lot of support right here. This is looking on the daily. Again, guys, a lot of support, and actually you can see a little better if I come over here and I pull up the weekly chart. Zoom out, you can see what I'm talking about just a little bit better. The top of the bottom of this wick and the top of this wick, that's right between about 5,000 and 5,100. That breaks down, guys. We're coming down to this order block, the top of which sits at about 4,600. You can see it very clearly here on the weekly chart, and that support should go all the way down to right around 4,000, 4,100, somewhere thereabouts. We have a little bit longer wick down below that, guys, but the real support level is in this area. Now, there is still a little bit of support. If we look below that area, we've got a little order block right here. Bottom of this wick comes in here. That sits at about 3,700, 3,600. It's possible it could wick down into this zone, guys. But the next major support, if 4,100 does break down, then we're looking at that $3,000 Bitcoin that everyone had been possibly calling for, that a lot of analysts had been calling for, that we may see. That $3,000 Bitcoin is a possibility. If we come down here and we look at this order block here, the top of that sits at right at 3,000. Top of this wick is right there, almost a do hit perfectly at 3,000. So if I'm just gonna actually go ahead here and mark that area. That would be right there, guys, right there at 3,000. That would be a logical area to expect to bounce, guys. And I know a lot of analysts had been calling for that in the past. Certainly a possibility. My opinion is, though, it's really going to depend, and this is what I'm going to watch, guys. Remember, as always, I know you guys get sick of me saying this, but trading is a zero-sum game. For someone to make money, someone else has to lose money. So we come over here and we analyze the long and the short positions. Right now, they're almost even. We got the short positions are just slightly outweighing the long positions here, but really almost a dead heat between longs and shorts right now. Longs are starting to stack, or longs have been stacking here. They had a little bit of a pullback here recently. Looking at shorts, shorts have been stacking now in the last 12 hours. They've been moving sideways, not really liquidating, not really, not really rising, just kind of moving sideways for about the last 12 hours. Yeah, but prior to that, we had this major increase in shorts, as you would expect when price breaks down. So this tells you is if shorts keep stacking like this, then more than likely, what does that mean? That means market makers are going to make more money by driving price up. However, we had long stack as well, and of course, when long stack, how do you take out longs? How do market makers make money? Well, they liquidate longs by bringing price down. So what I'm afraid might need to happen, and this is that fear. As an analyst, really, you want to buy when there's blood in the streets, they say. When everybody else is selling, when everybody else is panicking, when everybody else is saying Bitcoin is dead, etc., get out while you can. You try to cash in your Bitcoin because eventually it's going to be worth nothing, so you might as well sell it for something now. That's when things start to get interesting. That's when you know that a likely bottom is probably in. And the fact that we have some retail investors still investing in Bitcoin right now, tells me that there is some hope. Now, we know that it's just a matter of time before institutional money comes in. So if we do have some kind of good news to spark a bull run, that could turn into a very nice bull run. We could get a nice bounce off here. But if things just go status quo with no real change in news, nothing to really move the market other than just watching analysis, then this thing, especially if longs continue to stay stacked like this, and shorts kind of to continue to move sideways, really there's a good chance that price is going to get driven down, because all things being equal, institutional money wants to buy at a lower price. So if they really can't, if it's a wash between longs and shorts, they're probably going to buy price down, knowing that institutional money wants to get in here at a lower price. That being said, if longs start to fall off the board and shorts just start to stack and everybody turns bearish, everybody starts selling, at that point you know that the bottom might be in. And I think, in my opinion, and this is what I've always said to you guys, in my opinion, if this thing did break down, which we know that it has broken down now, that I told you that in my opinion, very likely the bottom would be somewhere between 46 and 4100, somewhere thereabouts. I never thought that it would come down to a $3,000 Bitcoin. Now I could be wrong. Certainly I could be wrong. There's no question, guys. This is just a personal opinion. But the reason I say that is because I figure by the time it gets down to between 46 and 4100, everybody that's buying up here, that's expecting that major bounce, that thought this thing could be a bear trap, is going to be washed out. They're more than likely going to sell their positions, and everyone's going to be talking about how Bitcoin is dead. You're going to see short positions start to go through the roof. You're going to see long positions just drop off the board, and that's when you see that, that's when you know that institutional money is more than likely going to come in, swoop in. Smart money is going to swoop in and just take this thing on the bull run that everyone's waiting for. And I figured that'll happen. If this thing drops down to 46 to 4100, everyone's going to be thinking, okay, that's it. $3,000 Bitcoin is next. It has to be. We never thought 5,500 would break. We certainly never thought we'd be at 4,500 to 4,100. It's going down to 3,000, guys. Let's just get out now. And once everybody sells in that area and everybody's doing that, that's when institutional money is going to swoop in, and they're going to liquidate all those short positions by taking us on that bull run that we've all been waiting for. So I think there's a good chance that happens around 4,600 to 4,100. Does that mean that it has to happen? No. It certainly is possible it could come down to 3,000. Me personally, I did enter, I told you guys yesterday that I'd enter a small position between 57, down here at stacking my positions between 57 and 50 is $5,450. I had a very small position that was filled here. My stop loss got triggered, no problem. I expected that, I expected that was a possibility. That's why I have a stop loss. You can't win every single trade, guys. You certainly can't win every single trade, but you can't make money if you don't take a little bit of a risk. But I went ahead and I told you I had a very, very tight stop loss, knowing that if that broke down, we could be coming much lower. So now I've got a much larger position sitting down here between, really this area starts at 4,600. I've got my position stacked between 4,500 down to about 4,000 with a tight stop loss at 3,900. That's just me personally, guys. Now, and even then, I don't have all of my fiat on the table. If it gets down to $3,000, guys, that's when I will start to deploy most of my fiat. That's when, that's when I'll go in, maybe 80-90% of my portfolio will be converted into Bitcoin at that point. I still won't go 100% all in, but I will be going a very heavy in here. At this point, guys, I'm only going to be utilizing, if it does even get filled, and I'm not even saying it's going to, but if it does come into this area, guys, between 4,500 and 4,000, I'm only going to be utilizing about 50% of my total portfolio in buys in this area. I will still have 50% of my fiat waiting down here if price does end up dropping down here, and I won't even deploy all 50% down here. I'll probably only deploy about 30% of that. So really, guys, the name of the game is to have options, to always have options. If price does drop lower, you want to be able to have fiat to take advantage of those prices. If price turns back around and we get a nice long bull trend, yeah, I might not have caught the bottom, but once we have a trend going, I can take advantage of that trend. Right now, we don't have a new trend yet. We are in the process of establishing a new trend. Certainly, we've broken the old trend, but that doesn't mean a new trend is established. That means that this thing is broken bare. We need to wait for this thing to find a bottom and start consolidating sideways, and then wait for the retest. What do I mean by the retest? Well, if we come over here and we look at excuse me, guys. We come over here and we look at our RSI. Let me go to the daily. We can see that the daily RSI on Coinbase is the lowest it's ever been. So certainly, this goes all the way back to 2015, beginning of 2015. It's literally the lowest it's ever been on Coinbase on the daily RSI. So we know that this would be a not a great area to enter into a short position. Yes, it might be going lower. It's certainly a possibility, but probability is not really on your side, guys. There's a much higher probability that eventually here sometime soon we're going to get a little bit of a bounce. Now, that doesn't mean that bounce would be a necessary bottom. When it does bounce, waiting to see how it reacts on that bounce is going to be key. So in other words, if this thing does come back up, if we get a nice bounce off here, this thing comes back up and tests that 5775, 5800, 5900, what has been support for so many months here, and we get and it comes up, tests that zone, and we get a strong rejection off that area, guys, that's when you're going to want to enter into a short position. If we come back up and we're able to penetrate right through that 5900 zone that has been acting as support for so long, and it just breaks right through and it doesn't act as resistance, that's going to be a very bullish sign that we might be, that the bottom might be in. But we aren't going to know until we have a retest of the area, and whether it retests and is rejected or retests and breaks through. And until we get that, guys, we're just in a free fall looking for some kind of bottom, at least some kind of consolidation before it either continues down or decides it wants to come back up for a retest or even continues up. So right now you'd be trying to catch a falling knife. You might catch it at the bottom, you might get cut. You just don't know. And until, as an analyst, you kind of want to, hands off, maybe small little positions. If you're going long, if you're wanting to enter into positions that you're going to hold for the long haul, maybe slowly dollar cost averaging in, guys, but most of your fiat you want on the side until we have one, a new trend established, or two, it hits an area that makes a logical sense to start buying, which would be down here. There's a nice little support down here. Right now, as I said, between $5,500 or really $5,450 between the bottom of that and, as I said, the top of this zone at 4,600, there's just not a lot of support. So buying in this area doesn't make a lot of sense. You might get lucky and it might turn right back around, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you're holding for the long haul, and the long haul being, at least a year or so, something like that. So just be very, very careful, guys. All right, coming on, looking at EOS very, very quickly. EOS is really just following Bitcoin for the most part, guys. We saw that price did end up breaking down. It did initially. I'm going to zoom in here to the 4-hour chart so you guys can see a little bit better. Initially, it did break down, hit right into our support zone that had been support for so long, right there between $4.73 and $4.67. Let me move this out of the way so you guys can see a little bit better. Initially, it hit that zone, wicked through, got pushed right back up, consolidate, and then just broke right back down, hit our $4.50 support like it did back here. We thought maybe it was going to be a nice double bottom, unable to bounce back up, and just crashed back down right below that. And now it's hitting our $4.28 support here. It bounced back up almost to the 450 area now. So it's literally hitting each one of our support zones, guys, and having a nice little bounce right back up. The problem is when it does bounce back up, what was support starts acting as resistance, it gets rejected and comes back down. Now it's going to be interesting to see if 450 does do that. It may. Right now it's literally sitting almost right at 450, I think. Yeah, literally it's 451 right now. So just right above. So it's really into that transition phase to whether or not we're going to see if 450 can start acting as support or if 450 is going to act as resistance. And if it comes back down and we get a strong rejection and we come back out and have a double test to that 428, and 428 breaks down, guys, as if you've watched me analyze EOS for any amount of time, I've told you, I haven't told you guys probably in a few weeks, but if you go back to my analysis a while ago, I told you guys that my buy orders, and they still do remain stacked, between $4 and $3.50. That was that. I've had them here since this prior low back here, and if you looked at my prior videos, over the last few months, you know that. The last 2 months or so, you know that. Why do I have it stacked into that zone? If we come back here and we look at this area, this has been a very strong supply zone. And this was set back in December of last year. We can see price came up, wick, and then it took off, came back down, wicked into it, came back down here, even months later, wicked into it and took back off again. So we know this is a very strong supply zone. We know there's not supply zone, demand zone, guys. There's a strong demand zone. That means there's more than likely a lot of buy orders that are sitting down in here. So this is the area that makes sense to start laddering in your buys for EOS. And I would be very surprised if EOS goes below 350. I would be very surprised if EOS goes below 350. So between $4 and $3.50, guys, that's where my buy orders are stacked, and that's where, again, not financial advice at all, but this would be a very logical place to start stacking in your fiat. Now, if you're going to hold for the long term, you want to start slowly dollar cost averaging in. Just like Bitcoin, same thing is true with EOS. If you're holding for the long term, sure, going ahead and start dollar cost averaging in would make some sense. But right now, and yeah, we can see 450 just broke down. Right now, we are just in a free fall, and you would be trying to catch it if you're looking for a day and/or scalp trade or even a swing trade. You're trying to catch a falling knife. Right now, we need this thing to find bottom somewhere and build up some structure. Either come back up for a major retest or build up some structure and then come back down to just continue its path down. But right now, it needs to find some kind of bottom and then some kind of consolidation, which I would expect coming over here. Looking at the RSI, this is on the daily. You can see the RSI is finally is oversold on the daily. Obviously, on the 4-hour, it's extremely oversold. We can see has been for a little bit of time here. So we have to be getting close to at least a point where we're going to get some consolidation, at least some consolidation. Now, it could go lower. Again, looking at the daily chart, we can see, looking at the daily RSI, we can see that we were much lower on the RSI back in August. We were about 21. This is, again, on the daily, we're only sitting at about 26 right now. So yes, this thing could come much lower. We could be coming down and testing this $4 zone here. But I do think very, very soon we're going to start getting some kind of consolidation, because typically we just don't get a continuous fall like this. Doesn't mean it can't happen, especially, but falling down into such a heavy demand zone like this is down here without some kind of consolidation just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So yes, we might drop from 428 down to $4, but I would imagine at the very least we get some serious consolidation at the $4 range, somewhere thereabouts, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things there, guys. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comments section below. As always, would appreciate an upvote if you have enjoyed this content. Until next time, guys, please trade safe. Take care of yourselves. This is Working, signing out.